Welcome in to another edition of 25 Questions. We got 25 teams ranked by the AP poll. We're not here to talk about the rankings necessarily, maybe some of that on this discussion, but every single week, 25 questions, one for each of the top teams in the AP poll. If you're a college football sicko, make sure you're subscribed. College football, nothing but on this show. Those 25 questions are coming courtesy of our very own producer of the Hard Count, two-time All-Sun Belt safety, Kato Smith. We call him Kato. Kato, I'm juiced for this, man. Good weekend we just had. Excited to hear what's on your mind, man. What's up with the Ohio State Buckeyes here?
Yeah, Ohio State leading the charge yet again, number one team in the country. They had a bye this past weekend, JD, so I'm going for like a bye week kind of question for them. But as a former player, bye week, only time you get to kind of watch a lot of football when it's happening. So Ohio State, looking at the rest of the Big Ten this weekend, were there any teams that jumped out to you as potential threats to the Buckeyes, whether it was how Michigan looked, Indiana looked in the Big Ten, who stood out as maybe a threat to the Buckeyes this weekend?
Yeah, Kato, if you're an Ohio State fan, you're always tracking Michigan. I mean, even going to games out in Columbus, they got the Michigan game going up on the screens throughout the stadium, which more power to you. That's rivalry football in the world of Ohio State, Michigan. But what Indiana did to Illinois, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I perk up a little bit seeing that. Say, oh, the team that we boat raced last year in Columbus, they look better this year with Mr. Google Me, Kurt Signetti. Indiana, I don't play them this year, but wouldn't it be something if we saw them play each other in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship? Indiana got my attention from a Buckeye fan.
Yeah, I think they're not on their schedule, so we'll see how it shakes out for them. Maybe in the postseason they can see each other, but we'll talk about Michigan later. But let's just say for me, I think Michigan looking very Michigan-ish is something I think everyone in the Big Ten should keep an eye on. But number 2, Miami Hurricanes. They jumped from number 4 to number 2 following their win over Florida. Simple question for you, JD. Do you think Miami is the second best team in the country?
I don't know if I would call them the second best team in the country. I don't have a problem with them at number 2. I think they have probably the second best resume in college football, and I think they can play with anybody. Like, I think they are legitimately, after this weekend, to me, I put the stamp on could truly win a national championship on the Miami Hurricanes. Something I wasn't saying before the year, I'm saying it now. Top 2, we have our rankings look a little bit different over here, but I think they're definitely one of the best teams in college football and definitely the second best resume in the sport.
Resume, yeah. Resume is the key word. The resume is undeniable right now, and I think leverage-wise for CFP rankings and stuff, like, their resume looks great right now, and I think it can only get stronger just given the rest of their schedule and them showing different ways of styles of winning. Very exciting stuff in Coral Gables, but exciting stuff, too, for Penn State, number 3. Mega matchup hosting Oregon this weekend. Simple question again, JD. We're keeping it a little simple now. We have some big games this week. What do you want to see from James Franklin's Penn State team against Oregon this weekend?
I want to see a Penn State team that looks like they've heard everything that's been said about them negatively dating back to, last 3+ years. Penn State, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Always 10-2, can't win the big one. All those things. This is a spot where Drew Aller's back. A bunch of those key pieces from last year's team are back, notably Katron Allen, Nick Singleton in the backfield. I want to see them play like we projected them to play before the year. I want to see them have that emotion, that sense of urgency that great teams, quite frankly, can and should have in a spot like this. They got it all on paper. Do we see the intentionality from Penn State with the season truly starting for them this weekend against the Ducks?
Yeah, I think this is – I could power rank what I want to see from Penn State just because we haven't seen anything against good competition. I want to know how the receivers are going to look. The James Franklin big game of it all. Is this the team that can finally show a big game edge? First quarter, second quarter, third, fourth. Is Andy Koltenecky stashing some stuff maybe that he has? There's a lot to see from Penn State, so excited about that game. Big one this weekend for sure. Number 4, your national championship predicted. LSU Tigers. JD, for the 4th time this year, that defense has given up 10 points or less this season. Where does their defense currently rank for you in the country as far as one of the best units in the entire country so far this year?
So I can't unsee what Ohio State did in week 1 and how complex they were and how good Caleb Downs is. But I think LSU is right there with them. I think they're the number 2 defense in all of college football. The complexity they play with, the aggression they play with, the second level of that defense alone, if you're counting Harold Perkins as a linebacker playing star, him and Whit Weeks, dude, they're different. They're different, and it's a thing where I think Blake Baker, too, truly has the personnel that he's liked to have over the course of his entire career. Guys that can, play with speed, arrive with violence. they wanted to play that way early on in his time in Baton Rouge, but didn't quite have like the cohesion of personnel to do that. They definitely do now, and we're seeing it. I think they're the second best defense in the country.
Yeah, I mean, not to get full just football nerd here, but they're multiple. Like, whatever you've got, they've got an answer to. Their defensive just backfield has just a variety of different body types and guys that can play man, can play zone. Same with the linebackers. They can cut them loose. They can drop them into coverage. Like, it looks like an NFL defense. Blake Baker and that talent they have now, and just them all being on the same page up here, they're just moving like an amoeba, just like as one unit swarming to the ball. So really excited to see if they can maybe be the team that carries them to the heights. They're the side of the ball, rather, that can carry them to the heights that you kind of expected preseason. Because I feel like a lot of people thought offense, but defense wins championships. And if that's the case, then LSU, we'll see you in Miami.
The trivia. Yeah, we'll see you in the 305. The trivia, though, pre-week maybe is translating to the field. The guys know the state flower of Louisiana. Maybe you're in your playbook a little bit more. You're just mentally more sharp when you got the trivia during the week. I don't know. Blake Baker up to something, man.
Yeah, maybe when they're making plays in the backfield, they're just giving the opponent some fun facts here.
Magnolia.
Really throwing them off. Yeah, we'll see. Trivia paying off for sure. Number 5, we have the Georgia Bulldogs playing in a huge game. Rematch of last year's best game, in my opinion, against Alabama. For the Bulldogs, what worries you the most about their matchup against Alabama at home this weekend?
It's funny because you would have thought going into the year, you're like, hey, how does Gunnar Stockton respond? And he still has to respond, still a big spot. You can have a question about that if you're a Georgia fan. It's totally fair. Mike Bobo, sure. Hey, man, I know Tennessee and Josh Heupel are maniacal when it comes to how they dial it up offensively, but if that back end of Georgia's defense doesn't look better than they did in Knoxville, they could get beat. Because Ty Simpson's out here dealing. I think the receiving core for Alabama is talent-wise probably better than Tennessee. I don't think that's crazy to say. If they don't shape up here quick, they could get beat for the second year in a row by that Kalen DeBoer offense.
Yeah, it's hard not to worry about that given what Tennessee did through the air. But if there was just any coach in the country that, with a bye week, could just fix one problem aggressively, very pointedly, and get it done, you have to think it's Kirby Smart, right? So last year, Jalen Milroe's legs were such a big part of what gave Georgia a problem that taking that away now, I think Alabama's going to have some kind of counterpunch. So it'll be very interesting going through the week, really kind of to break down how different this game looks compared to last year. I think it's an exciting one, man. Can't wait to see it between the hedges. But moving on, we have Oregon coming in at number 6. Again, another big game, another big ranked team. Oregon playing against Penn State in Happy Valley, whiteout conditions. First big-time stage, I think, for Dante Moore as I hit my microphone. What do you expect from Dante Moore in his first kind of big game as an Oregon Duck here coming up this weekend?
You know, it's funny. I think he's going to calibrate pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I think the fact that he's been in the system for so long, he looks like a guy when he takes the field that knows what he's doing. We see a lot of these first-year quarterbacks, whether it be Arch Manning. Lagway's not a first-year quarterback, but still early in his career. Looks a little bit sped up. I understand Dante Moore's not playing against LSU in Miami, but he looks very even keel. So to answer your question directly here, Kato, I think that we will see a calibration period for Dante Moore. Maybe it's that first drive. Maybe it's 3 and out right away, and we're like, hey, what's going on with the Oregon offense? We're not used to seeing that from them. Hey, it's not Northwestern anymore, Dante. And then next drive, he's out there, bang, 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 touchdown, Oregon gets on the board, and we see him settle in. Like, I think the wideout environment is going to impact him. I'm more curious how that scheme on the other side impacts him. But regardless, I think we're going to even keel Dante Moore.
Yeah, I think just given everything we've heard about Dante Moore coming into this year and the Tess Johnson calling him a Heisman candidate and him being a 5-star and just the little things we hear, I think it all comes together in this game. Because I agree with you. Like, he looks so poised, so composed. We've talked about it before. This is a guy who sat a whole year, said, you know what, I'm a 5-star freshman. I play a little bit UCLA. I want to transfer. Let me not be eager to play. Let me sit back, learn, grow a beard, mature.
Yes.
I just believe in it. Like, I believe in all the things I heard about it, and I think we all see it on display this weekend. I don't know what his stat line is going to be, but I expect him to be composed. And I think just chess match between him and Will Stein going against Jim Knowles, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that as far as the meeting of the minds. So very excited for Dante Moore. I think he shows the world this weekend. And a team that's been showing the world throughout the year that they're who we thought they were preseason is Oklahoma, coming in at number 7. Big win against Auburn. JD, the schedule is what scared us going into the year, but now that Oklahoma's sitting here undefeated, we've seen what we've seen. Do we think now is a realistic time to talk about Oklahoma in the college football playoff?
110%. 100%. Now, do they have some things to clean up? Absolutely. If they had a call break a different way or two against Auburn, do they lose that game? I don't know. Hindsight's 2020. Definitely some missed calls from the SEC folks in that Auburn game. But the style of play that John Mateer brings to the table, the feeling I get from an Oklahoma fan is as long as number 10 is taking the snap, we got a chance. And honestly, look at the quarterback matchups they have left on the board. Like, is there going to be a game where it's just definitively favoring the opposition against John Mateer with the quarterback matchup? Like, I don't think so. I know LSU is going to be awesome. I love Garrett Nussmeier, but like John Mateer and Garrett Nussmeier will be must-see TV when they get after it. I think that John Mateer and what he does with his legs. You mentioned it. We were talking before with this segment, kind of off the air. Like, John Mateer didn't have like an amazing game, but you look at his numbers, it's like, oh, he threw for 270. That's a down game, quote unquote, for the Oklahoma offense. He's special, man. He's special in Oklahoma because of that. Definitely a playoff team in terms of, are they a contender? I think absolutely.
Yeah, I think we've gotten to the point now where looked at their schedule coming up in the year and we were like, this is a tough schedule for Oklahoma. Now it's like flipping a little bit and it's like, okay, if you have Oklahoma on your schedule, that's making your schedule tough. So I think John Mateer is the best player in the country through a couple weeks of the season, and he's the guy where no matter if you need to get a field goal range, if you need a first down, if you need a touchdown, he feels like the guy in the country that imposes the most fear, and you feel the most confident about him doing that. So definitely excited for the Sooners. Number 8, Florida State. Their long-awaited game against Virginia on Friday. You might be the only person in the country that's just juiced for this game, but you talked about in the past that test and how you can get up for Alabama versus getting up for this game. But I'm not going to ask about that. I'm actually going to ask about more of an Alabama-related question. How Alabama has looked following their loss to Florida State. Has that changed at all how you look at the Seminoles right now?
Not really. I think we always knew Alabama was talented. They've just started to play more talented over the course of the last few weeks, granted against lesser competition. I really just keep going back to this idea that the change in coordinators, the change in personnel in that roster, quite frankly, with like 40 to 45 new players, I think we're seeing that start to settle in and result in like a different attitude and confidence for Florida State. I just really want to see what they are whenever they get punched in the mouth and they, God forbid, go down 10 points to somebody. Like, okay, it's been a hot start for this team and they've had a lot of momentum, but we've seen with Thomas Castellanos, it can go a lot of different directions pretty quickly. And that's coming from someone that has Thomas Castellanos top 3 right now in my, way too early Heisman ballot for how things are rolling this year. So I don't think any less of the Alabama win. I think the Alabama win in itself, I think, will only age better for Florida State because I think they're going to get off the ropes and be a team we have to talk about here in November.
Yeah, I think there's some people who are in the camp that Alabama playing better and looking better makes the Florida State win look more impressive. There's the whole Clemson thing, like maybe a win over Clemson doesn't mean as much as it used to when you talk about like a LSU maybe. So it's just funny watching it fill out now for sure. And we'll obviously learn more about these teams the more we see of them. And I think Alabama potentially beating Georgia this weekend, I think that'd be huge for Florida State in their case as far as being one of these top teams in the country.
And I almost care, Kato, more about the win when you got it, and I keep a side eye to how it ages. Like, obviously the Clemson win for LSU is steadily declining in value. But Florida State, when they got that win over Alabama, there should have at least been a lot of conversation for Alabama of, okay, we're trying to get back to our standard. Okay, this is us going on a run this year. Okay, we're so talented. We got a lot of guys back. Like, I think the external variables for a game that you play, especially in week 1 of the college football season, it's easy to do the hindsight's 2020 thing and say, well, Bama maybe wasn't as good as we thought they were. It's like, I don't know if that's a fair conversation. Like the psyche in a locker room, you know this as well as anybody, varies so much week to week. Like, I guarantee Alabama walked into that game against Florida State seeing themselves as a top 5 team, top 3 team in all of college football, whereas now they're a little more hungry, which is maybe a good thing for Bama. But I think that in itself doesn't get talked about enough relative to these rankings and looking at wins after the fact. I freeze that win for Florida State when it comes to that Bama win for me.
Yeah, and I think how they did it too is always going to just stand the test of time. Like, we all remember what it looked like, how they beat Alabama and the way they took it to them. Like, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything either team could do like going forward in their schedule that can take away how they looked in that moment. So I agree about that part of freezing it too, for sure. And that time and place, beating Bama like that, hard to get more impressive than that as far as teams across the country and big wins this season. But team that had a bye this week, coming off of a big win before, Texas A&M, number 9. They officially jumped Texas in the rankings. Do you think the Aggies are the best team in the state right now?
I do. You know what? I think Texas, not to knock the horns, we'll talk about them here in a second. I think they're the third best team in the state with Texas Tech. But I digress. A&M, man, it feels like for the first time that they are living their adult life. You know what I mean? With Texas A&M. Like, it was always under Jimbo Fisher and even Kevin Sumlin. They'd have some flashes of brilliance. They'd have a good year here or there. You have the Manziel year for Sumlin. You have the COVID year where you go into your sixth bowl if you're Jimbo Fisher. But it never really felt like something dependable. A&M feels dependable with Mike Elko. Now, how dependable are they? We'll see. But I really think that, Kato, before the year we said they were a college football playoff team, it's all translating how we thought we'd translate in August into where we are right now in September, which isn't the case for a lot of these teams in this top 25, but A&M, definitely the best team in the state. And I'm curious to see now, too, if they carry that over throughout the rest of the year, what's the recruiting dividends from that for a Mike Elko? I digress.
That's a good call with the recruiting for sure. Obviously, a long time before these teams play each other, so we'll be able to debate it all year long. But I'll tell you what, if Marcel Reed keeps doing what he's doing, and Arch Manning keeps doing what we've seen more of him do, I think the gap there could be accentuated, to say the least. So let's just get to it. I feel like I should ask you a Texas Tech-related question here, but I'm not. But we'll stick with the Texas Longhorns, ranked number 10 in the country. How much more confident are you in Arch Manning now compared to week one, based on what you've seen and them officially having that big game against Florida in the Swamp, not this weekend, but the next weekend?
It's funny because after the Ohio State game, you and I are stranded in the Miami airport, and we're having a conversation about Arch Manning, what we saw, and we spent the night in the Miami airport. For those that don't know the backstory there, flight got canceled, another conversation for another time, but we spent like a good 30 minutes talking about how bad Arch looked against Ohio State and how worried I was or wasn't. After that game, I was like, okay, big spot, Ohio State defense, he's got 3 weeks to get right. Played well against Sam Houston State, but Caden, it hasn't been the pop that I wanted to see post-Ohio State. It's actually been a little bit more like, are we sure that this is all coming together how we thought it was going to? Are we sure this is the Arch Manning we all signed up for? I honestly, I don't want to take a totally different direction, but I honestly really loved seeing him stare down that Sam Houston State defender on the read option getting in the end zone. And I know the defender from Sam Houston State, all respect to the Bearcats, he'll probably work a corporate job here in the not-distant future. He's probably going to be, as Ari Washman said, working at Progressive here, adjusting the claim in a couple of years to a couple of months. I'm like, Arch, whatever gets you out of your head and makes you feel good about yourself, I'm here for that. If it's staring down the Sam Houston State defender, if it's ripping off your helmet on the sideline and saying we're freaking here, great. But, like, I need to see more of that version of Arch Manning, the moxie, the edge. That was kind of the selling point for him, was he's not your average man. He's going to talk his junk. He's going to do the celebration on the sideline and kind of have a little bit more swag to him. I've seen the opposite of that up into that moment. It gets real here in a couple of weeks. Real here in a couple of weeks against Florida, Kato.
Yeah, very high stakes quarterback matchup there for sure.
Gosh,
as far as stock goes. But yeah, I think when we were talking about Arch after week one, you were a little bit more optimistic than I was because he just looked bad. Like, I get that Ohio State was good, but like there was plays where Ohio State wasn't doing anything spectacular and he was just throwing balls in the ground. The mechanics looked off. It was just all off. And seeing him be more confident this weekend is definitely helpful. Who it's against, I feel like doesn't matter at this point for Arch, because it seems like such a neck up issue where he's trying to figure things out that if we need to put a Pop Warner team out there to get his confidence up, we'll do it if we have to do that. But I think people talking down on that, it's like when you're playing a game, like you're not thinking about who you're making plays against and how it's going to look, being fired up about it. But him being fired up can only be a good thing when he was at press conference being very admittedly and very openly like, I know I can be better than this. I need to be better than this. And it seems like it's at least clicking to him a little bit more from the neck up. And we'll see how that translates against a Florida defense that the record doesn't show is a good unit, I think.
Dude, what a test for his camp, too. Because we've said this for a long time around Arch. He has probably the best support system in all of football, if not just college football. Sark is his head coach, quarterback whisperer, A.J. Milwee. You got the Manning family behind you trying to give you advice and input for everything on the field and off the field. How he responds to this slow start in the year, if he does get back on the right track, huge testament to Arch Manning, but also huge testament to the people around him that are in his ear trying to get him back on the right side of things when it comes to what he's doing on the field and hasn't done on the field to this point.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the sliding doors moment of the year. It's probably not going to be – college football is never as simple as we make it, but it's like, okay, we had the Ohio State game. We had all these other games against teams that give or take didn't matter. Like stakes weren't very high, and now we're back at a SEC game on the road. Like which path are you taking, Arch? Like, are you going to be getting better and improving and showing yourself to be that player we thought you're going to be, or are you going to be this other guy we've seen that doesn't quite look like a 5-star, doesn't quite look like a Manning, doesn't quite look like what we build him out to be? It will be amazing to see here in a little bit.
Hey, the Sam Houston State Bearcats now, one of the best teams in the country at the FCS level. Okay, so we need to water down that sample size of what he did against Sam Houston State. Some people are calling them the Ohio State of the FCS. Now they're FBS, so hat tip to Sam Houston State. But I think, if you're a Texas fan looking for some copium, looking for something to get yourself excited about, Sam Houston State. Good FCS outfit a couple of years ago.
We'll take your word for it. Number 11, the Indiana Hoosiers. Coming off probably the biggest win of the weekend as far as margin at least. But now that they took Illinois back to the woodshed, had that dominant win, how serious are you taking Indiana now as a team that could return to the college football playoff?
Kato, I've seen the light. You were the one telling me we got to Google Kurt Signetti. You got to take him seriously. Last year was cool. Last year, I think, was so – it's tough to define what last year was because the schedule was so lackluster, and then they got boat raced by Ohio State in the regular season. So it almost verified what a lot of us already were assuming could be true about Indiana. But then they pop out this year, in year 2 under Signetti, new transfer quarterback, some of those key pieces back from last year, especially on the defensive side, and it's like – I think they're for real. You know what's almost as impressive as them being for real is I think they're cool. Like Indiana is a cool football team in the context of what college football is. Like we weren't saying that before. It was Indiana. They were cool with Michael Penix Jr., I guess, during that brief period where he was there and it was on and popping for them. But Indiana's like a basketball school. Indiana's the redheaded stepchild of the Big Ten. Like Indiana is a cool team in the context of college football. They're a true, I think, Big Ten title contender. Definitely a college football playoff contender in the context of this season. So I'm in on Indiana, man. I'm buying all the stock. I got the Sig 10 hoodie. I'm in on Indiana this year.
Welcome to the club, man. I feel like I was one of the few people that was like not ruling out that they could be better than last year. Like I thought
you were.
Like, I was like, Fernando Mendoza's a better quarterback than Curtis Rourke. And the biggest thing that worried me, they brought back a ton of talent from last year. Some of their key players on all 3 levels of the defense, at the wide receiver position. Like they brought back what they needed to, and they filled in holes where they needed to. The biggest worry was them losing their offensive coordinator, JD Tino Sinceri, who seemed to be a guy who was very integral in all of Kurt Signetti's stops as far as quarterback play, being at a high level. He goes to UCLA. We see how that's gone. And we see Fernando Mendoza continuing to hoop. So excited for them for sure. The Hoosiers look unreal this year as far as just what they're capable of. And even last year, they smacked teams. Like when it wasn't, the Ohio State game went how it went. Some of their big games were close, but they were dominant, people forget, as far as their point differential. So excited to see if they can double down this year.
And what if Signetti just stays there for a long, long time? Like I know he's always going to be thrown into the fun conversations of hot boards and, hey, Signetti's at Indiana. What if we got him at a blue blood like Florida is one of the schools that you're already hearing murmurs around. Could they go get a Lane Kiffin? Do they go try? You've seen the graphic of a coach attire swap on a one Marcus Freeman. I think like the assumption is, hey, Florida as a job should be pretty attractive to a lot of college football coaches, regardless of where they're at. Indiana, historically, not a blue blood, but you're like, what if Signetti just gets his Matt Campbell on and camps out at Indiana, and they're a team you have to deal with every year in the Big Ten? I'd be here for that.
It gives me an Ole Miss kind of vibe with Lane Kiffin. Like, does he stay there? Does he continue to be just a problem for everybody? Wins most of their games he's supposed to. Maybe doesn't break through the conference title game like we'd want, but it's just so good, so consistent, a charismatic personality in a very different way than Lane. But I'm excited for them. The Hoosiers are a fun squad, as you mentioned. And
I love it.
The deeper the Big Ten could be, the better, I think.
I love it. I'm all the way here for it.
A deep league, though. The deepest league, the league of college football, is the Big 12. And at number 12, fittingly, Texas Tech comes in, jumping up the rankings after a big win against my Utah Utes. What impressed you the most from the Red Raiders as far as their big win over Utah?
2 things. I know you asked for one. I'm going to give you 2 things. One, that defensive line and the way they handled Utah. They spotted them 100-plus yards and penalties and made the game boring in the fourth quarter. The aggression that front seven plays with, I think, is going to translate to anyone they play, not just in the Big 12. Because Utah, we know that's their MO. They are the bully of the Big 12, and Texas Tech hung in there and threw haymakers right back. That's the first thing. Second thing, dude, how poised was Will Hammond?
Will Hammond for president.
Like,
who is this guy?
He is a psycho, dude. It wasn't like he came in and is already up 20 and it's like, okay, dude, just hand it off and don't give the game away.
Fearless.
He was in there dealing seeds, dude.
Fearless.
He was dialed in. I talked to somebody in the offseason that's like, he is real deal elite upstairs. Like, he's going to be an NFL guy, according to them, based on how he thinks about the game of football. But to see him just drop dimes, my jaw was on the floor. I knew he was good. I knew they were excited about him. I didn't know he was stepping into the game against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the Big 12 in Utah at that point in time, and just put it on. I was so impressed with him, man. They have quarterback controversy in Lubbock.
It's hard
Good
not
problem
to
to
ask.
have.
It's hard not to ask, and we're getting funny enough to one in our next question. But I saw the way Baron Morton took like one of his first hits, and I immediately took Utah live and felt really good about it.
Yeah.
And felt good about it because didn't wish this upon him, but he did eventually leave the game because I saw how he was getting hit.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like he was going to be able to finish the game. Little did I know that Dan Marino was coming in as his backup and was just Ivy League level brain, according to you, just dicing up defenses. So we'll see with Texas Tech, but the fact that they were able to line up and match up from a defensive line against an offensive line that's probably going to have 2 first-round picks on it in Utah, very impressive to me. I think that's what impressed me the most,
Good point. It's a really good point.
One of the most impressive players in the country, though, Ole Miss, ranked at 13, led by Trinidad Chambliss, yet again. I got to read his stats off again, man.
Please.
He followed up his 307. He's followed up, the Arkansas game where he was amazing. We read those stats last week. This week, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, still no interceptions, 112 yards on the ground, and a 45-10 win over Tulane. Has Austin Simmons officially lost his job in Oxford to Trinidad Chambliss?
Yes, and I don't even know if it's on Austin Simmons. Like, I'm looking at Trinidad Chambliss and what he's doing right now on the field. He's like a supercharged Baker Mayfield.
It's a different gear, man.
He's just more twitchy. The fact that you can run the football with Trinidad Chambliss the way that you can, I think the Ole Miss offense with Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin would like to have that element there. I think he's the guy, dude. I think he's the guy going forward, and it's not to knock Austin Simmons. I think he's really good in his own right, and he's proven that at real deal points throughout his career at Ole Miss, not just like us saying we trust Kiffin. Like, he went out there and balled for a drive against Georgia. He's looked good at times this year, but Trinidad Chambliss just gives you more of what you need for this Ole Miss offense, and he's handling it like a freaking dog, man. He's so poised. He's so fun to watch.
It's how it looks. Like, it just looks so different that you just can't. I don't think you can. Like, it's just too different of a gear.
It's not Austin Simmons' fault.
Yeah.
It's like he got hurt, and then Trinidad Chambliss went in and never gave the job back.
And when you get hurt, like if before you got hurt, you're not playing to that same level, that I think that just makes it a little bit easier. It's just tough because this is the guy who's getting interviewed in the offseason, like predecessor to Jackson Dart. Like, all eyes were on him to be that guy, and that's just not how the ball bounced this year. So going to be interesting to see
awesome.
Trinidad matched up against an LSU defense.
That's going to be fun. The cat and mouse there.
That'll be fun for
Big
sure.
time.
Iowa State coming in at 14. Texas Tech officially jumps over the Cyclones as the top-ranked team in the Big 12. These teams do not play each other in the regular seasons, but if they did, how do you think the Cyclones would match up with Texas Tech?
Ooh, yeah, I'd be excited to watch what that. I don't want to call them conservative because that has like a negative connotation to it, but the don't give up the big play brand of ball that Iowa State plays on the back end, it would force Texas Tech to, one, like test that, or two, be comfortable playing a style of ball of we're going to have a extended drive where we just pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. I wonder how Texas Tech would fare doing something like that. Here's the thing. It's tough to ever bet against Rocco Beck. I've done it a couple times. Don't like how it went. It's tough to bet against a Rocco Beck-led offense, even with their own limitations offensively. They're not quite as explosive as they were a year ago. You lost 2,000-yard receivers to the league. This matchup style there would be a lot of fun. And we may very well get that one in Jerry World because those two look like the best two teams in the Big 12 at this point in time.
Yeah, man. The only guarantee I think in that game would be some nosebleeds up front, some neck braces, some
smelling salt kind of
some
stuff.
kneecaps maybe getting bit, to quote a Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
but that'd be such a fun. The Big 12 is such a styles thing. I agree with you. The styles of that game would be very interesting. And don't worry, guys. There's plenty of games on both of these teams' schedules that are very exciting with some teams we're going to talk about here later. But Number 15, Tennessee Volunteers. 56 points, 275 through the air, 235 rushing against UAB on Saturday. Does Tennessee have the best offense in the SEC?
Ooh.
I know it's UAB.
Have the best offense in the SEC.
I know it's UAB, but just look at the resume, man.
Plus the Georgia game, which has to be accounted for.
Every game they light it up, man. Every game.
It's funny because personnel-wise, I would answer and say, no, I probably like what A&M has on the outside. I really like Nussmeier. I love LSU's weapons. But in terms of just production, you factor in play caller, you factor in what you've actually seen with your own tune. Ojos, another Ojos hit there for those that are betting the anytime Ojos mention for Spanish fries. Tennessee, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I do think so. Now, I think personnel-wise, again, you probably lean other teams. But the eye in the sky don't lie, man. The ball don't lie. And Tennessee, to this point, I think has been the best offense in the SEC. A&M will have a chance to claim that belt. I like them a lot, but it's hard to bet against Heupel and hard to bet against how they look right now with Aguilar spinning it.
They have the runway schedule-wise to do some numbers, too. So I'm really excited to see how they end this season. Number 16, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Now, Miami and Florida State both continue to look very good this year, but they play each other in 2 weeks, and neither of them play Georgia Tech. JD, does the ACC run through Atlanta?
It's hard for me to say yes to that from what we've seen from Miami. I feel the same way saying this as I do betting against Rocco Beck. I don't love saying, I want to see more from Haynes King as a, thrower of the football is even a lazy way to say it. I wonder a little bit about Georgia Tech. If they get down 10-0, if they get down 13-0, are they able to climb back in, hit the afterburners, and have the explosive plays when it's not set up running the football? But I would not bet against Haynes King. Is I guess the best way to put it simply. Goes through them, probably not, but I think they'll be there at the end. I think they will be in Charlotte playing either Miami or Florida State.
Yeah, I think that's kind of by definition it goes through them. I don't know.
I hear what you're saying.
I think that there is not a team. This might be a hot take. We have to clip this one.
I love it.
There's not a team in the country that controls their destiny more as far as making it to the college football playoff or their respective conference title game than Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
If you look at what they've done already, what they have to do the rest of the season, no one else controls their destiny more. We can talk about what teams we think will be in the Big 12 title, but you look at the schedule and it's okay, I can see you losing these games. Georgia Tech has the chance to be favored in the rest of their games, except for Georgia, and jog into the ACC title game, which is a ticket to the college football playoff. So we'll see, but
I like it.
Fire me up, Brent Key.
I like it, man. I don't think you're wrong. I like it a lot. The thing, too, to further emphasize your point, if Haynes King, with the way he plays football, ends up not being available for every single game the rest of the way. We hope he does. We wish he would. We wish he would. All those things. But if just him throwing his face into a linebacker ends up at some point in time resulting in him missing a game here or there, Philo's a dog behind him, man.
They'll be fine.
They can spin it with him. That's not saying you ever want to be without Haynes King. Not predicting a Haynes King injury, obviously. But, yeah, they're a wagon, man. They're a wagon.
Yeah, we'll see. But just exciting. Hoping Haynes stays healthy, but they have good depth, I think, in that room, so they'll be good. Philo's won games for them. But number 17 ranked Alabama. This is a very, very simple question for you. It's a fill in the blank, actually. Alabama beats Georgia for a second straight year if – take it away.
If Ty Simpson – no, you know what? I'm going to say this. If that Alabama offensive line is up to the task. Because even against Wisconsin, man, they looked a little bit suspect. And I know the final score doesn't indicate that, but there were times where we mentioned Ty Simpson getting smacked in the mouth and throwing a dart. It makes the highlights because he absolutely threw a C to Jeremy Bernard, to Ryan Williams, and all that. But I'm like, man, Wisconsin, their front seven, it's going to pack a different punch with Georgia's front seven. So if the Alabama offensive line is up to the task and gives Ty Simpson time and makes them multiple running the football and gets a good push, they can win that football game.
Yeah, I think for me it's just if they play with the proper emotion, juice, and energy that they need to. I think if they intangibly max out the bar as far as we're going to play physical, tough, we're going to take it to them, throw the first punch. I think if the more Alabama maxes out that bar, I think everything else can figure itself out, just given the talent, how Ty Simpson's looks. So hard not to get excited for this game, but I think the trenches will be important, and I think just across the board, man. If Alabama can play almost the opposite they did against Florida State from a emotional level, I think we'll be in a good spot for sure.
And the thing is, too, like, this is a big spot for Gunnar Stockton as well. Like, he got the good rep against Tennessee, obviously. I mean, we're not to make it the Georgia segment necessarily, talking about Alabama. But I don't think it's like a sure thing that Gunnar Stockton goes out there and goes for 300 yards against that secondary. Mm-hmm. Xavier Brown, Damani Jackson, Bray, like all those guys they have on the back end. I think that's going to be something to watch for as well with that secondary. So it's going to be blockbuster, as it always is when those two logos get after it.
Can't wait to see who you pick for that one in our prediction show.
Me too.
Up here.
Me too.
Staying in the SEC, number 18, Vanderbilt. 70-21 revenge win over Georgia State after a loss to them last year. First 4-0 start since 2008. All their wins by 20-plus points for the first time since 1916. Phil Steele's book in a lot of places I looked around this offseason, JD, said this was Clark Lee's best team yet. Could this be the year? That's the question. The year of what? I don't know. They looked good last year. Could this just be the year, though, for Vanderbilt where like they actually do it?
The answer is yes. And I'm right there with you. I don't know what like the year correlates to.
I can't define do it or the year, but is this that?
I think this is the year where Vanderbilt will have an opportunity this time next year, moving into SEC Media Days and how we're talking about Vanderbilt. Let's just assume now that Diego Pavia either doesn't get another year of eligibility or doesn't take another year of eligibility relative to what he's saying on Twitter. He said, "This is my last year. I'm out." Okay, we'll see. Vanderbilt, I think by what they're going to do throughout the course of this season, we're going to get to Media Days next year. And, of course, we'll have questions around, well, can they replace Pavia? He did so much for them, all that. But the conversation will be dressed in the idea of we're taking Vanderbilt more seriously than ever before. Because last year was cute. This year is a real deal. Like, oh, you got to take Vandy seriously with how Clark Lee is building it. If they get some momentum, we've said it for a while, you can't recruit to Nashville. You can't recruit to one of the best schools in America. And I understand academic standards is tough with recruiting at different points in time. But, like, Vanderbilt has a lot to sell. And if you give me a solid football product behind that, Vanderbilt could be a team that gets some momentum, and then at that point, maybe we're talking about them being a, tier 2 team in the SEC, which is wild to say out loud, but I don't think it's irresponsible. Yes, this is the year where we take Vanderbilt seriously because of what Clark Lee's built.
Yeah, and I think even from the Netflix SEC doc, the Vanderbilt portion, they had a good edge to them, I feel like they kind of talked about how they were changing up their recruiting and like they're getting guys that are personality and culture fits, and it seems like they kind of have a vibe of like, all right, like everyone on this team isn't going to these other SEC schools. Like they all passed up on y'all. So like, we are going to make a statement against them that no, like they messed up doing that. And Diego Pavia is obviously the tip of the spear there. But they can parlay that with all the other stuff you said, being in Nashville, being close to the hard count, the NIL stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows? Could be a sleeping, I won't say giant, but a sleeping unit, an anchor of sorts.
I like it.
That can get going here, but number 19, we have the Michigan Wolverines. Big win against Nebraska. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me in that game was the physicality of Michigan. So I'm going to ask you, how do you think their defense and their run game compares to their national title team? Because that's what it looked reminiscent to me a little bit of some of the stuff we saw in that special season they had 2 years ago.
I don't think it's on par, but I do think it is in the same neighborhood. Which, if you're Michigan, that's kind of been all you've been asking for relative to this season. Because of Bryce Underwood, because of the new offensive philosophy, all you were asking for was, okay, can the defense hold serve? And the defense seems to be able to do that based on what they have up front with Jayshon Barnum and all those guys. And then can we run the football well enough to support Bryce Underwood early in the year? Check and check. So when Bryce Underwood has that moment where I don't want to say light bulb moment because that makes it sound too simple, but once he evolves and gets totally comfortable at Michigan and they get the pieces around him on the perimeter, maybe that's this year, maybe that's next year, I think Michigan has a chance to be what you said before the year, find their way into the college football playoff. Like their style of ball is just going to translate and have them in every game, barring a Bryce Underwood freshman game where he has like a 3 turnovers showing and it just looks ugly.
He looks composed, man. He doesn't look like a freshman.
No,
like,
not at all.
I'm not even talking about like his play.
Yeah.
Just like between the snaps, at the line of scrimmage, like doesn't look like a freshman, man. So I think pairing that with, there's a couple runs that looked very Corum-ish to me from those backs they have back there. I like my ticket I'm holding as far as Michigan winning going to the college football playoff, rather. So we'll see how it looks. But number 20, we have Missouri, one of the underrated teams in the SEC, beating South Carolina. Simple question for you, JD. Are there 5 quarterbacks in the SEC better than Bo Perbula?
Now I'm trying to think out loud and count them all in the air.
Do it.
Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer.
Yeah.
Past that, Joey Aguilar, probably put in that mix.
I'd have Marcel there.
Marcel's in there.
And then we're in the range now. This
It's
is
a
like
real
the range.
discussion about 5. Because I think it's like, do you want to take Sellers? It's like, well, Bo Perbula just beat Lawrence Sellers. And I'm as high as Lawrence Sellers than anybody else. I'm not taking Arch Manning. I love Diego Pavia, but I'm probably not taking him ahead of Bo Perbula just based on the assumption that we're playing in a standard spread offense.
And I think even you having Nussmeier in there, that's obviously
Some people would push
a
back
lot
on
to
that,
do.
yeah.
A lot to do what he did last year, I think, compared to this year.
Yeah.
People are circulating about his health maybe being an issue, and the offensive output is definitely a lot different there. So
Taylor Green's a stud. I'll say the fact that it's even a conversation of him being a top 5 guy speaks to how good Missouri could be this year.
I think if I had one game to play, he's at 5 or 6.
Yeah. See, where does Trinidad Campbell's factor in? Like, he's probably in my conversation.
Number
like, he's
1.
awesome. But, I mean, yeah, I think the fact that it's a conversation with their schedule, with Eli Drinkwitz. I like Missouri, man. I like Missouri.
M-I-Z. We'll see. Number 21, the quiet, under the radar, USC Trojans. After the events of this weekend, JD, USC is now a 7-point favorite at
No way.
Illinois this weekend. I knew that surprised you. I asked you before if you knew about that line. Oh, I was shocked.
That is impressive. 7 points.
7 points in Champaign. What do you expect from the Trojans in their biggest test of the season on Saturday?
Well, I don't know if I expect anything different based on that line, but I would have guessed Illinois minus 4.5. Trojans favored by 7 in Champaign.
Listen, I was ready. I wanted to ask a question about the line of this game because I was assuming that Illinois would still be a slight home favorite despite getting taken back to the woodshed and despite USC looking really good up to this point, not against great competition, but looking good.
Yeah.
7 points was shocking.
That says to me that Vegas is saying, no, Indiana's really good, but we don't think Illinois is all that great either, which is interesting because I almost give more credit to Indiana than I do Illinois just like not being on their piece. Like I don't think less of Luke Altmaier after the Indiana game. I expect, to answer your question here, USC to be aggressive. Like the old Mike Leach quotes, you got to swing your sword. This is kind of that spot for USC to do that. No, Jaden Mayava on the road making his first like big time road start for USC, to my recollection at least. This is an offense that clearly can push the tempo under Lincoln Riley. Jacoby Lane is a special play waiting to happen. SportsCenter top 10 on deck. Like they got all the things that get you excited about a USC team, and now you feel like if you're a USC fan, that defense is finally in a spot. 7 points is a lot. But I do expect USC to be pretty aggressive and to at least put the country on notice of, okay, this is a different USC team than the last couple of years where we got to score 40 to even have a chance.
Yeah, we've talked about them being quiet, and I think this is where the noise gets louder if they can win this game. That they're now like suddenly stumbled into being favored, and just given how last weekend looked, I think the line's going to move a bunch. I don't know what the points is on this one, but I don't mind the over right now, just given that Illinois will probably look to bounce back. In all these games, USC, the defense has improved, but they give up a little something. Aiden Charles got a couple plays off on them, a couple touchdowns. So we'll see. But that's, again, sneaky game I'm really, really excited about this weekend.
Really sneaky. Wow.
Number 22, Notre Dame. Got their first win of the season.
Good for them, man. Let's
Against
go.
Purdue. 56-30 win. Had a weird rain delay. Do you think the Irish look like a team that can run the table this weekend against Purdue?
Not this past weekend necessarily. Like still allowing, what was it, 30-something to Purdue? Like Purdue still kind of got a few points on them, which I'm not saying anything less of the squad Barry Odom's got out there in the Boilermakers. But I think this is a team now that is going to, similar to last year, continue to get better as the year goes on. Like we'll get to October, checking on the Irish. Who are they playing? Nobody. Okay, still 2 losses. We'll see. We'll get to November, and I think C.J. Carr will look awesome. I think Jeremiah Love will still look awesome. I think the offense will find an identity. I think the defense will settle in. So right now, I'll say no, but I still think that Notre Dame is going to go 10-2 and make the college football playoff.
USC one Got to have that one circled,
Big
obviously.
one, dude. Yeah,
Obviously, we'll have that one
big
circled
one.
when it happens, but
Big one.
I love how Price looked. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the country running the ball. Him and Jeremiah Love are a nasty duo. And I think just CJ Carr having the test he had his first 2 games as a college quarterback to what we're going to see there throughout the season. Watching his growth to me is going to be one of my favorite things to watch this year. I'm excited to see it. Number 23, we mentioned him a couple times now, Illinois.
Yeah.
Woodshed kind of op. 63-10 loss to Indiana. With the games against USC, Ohio State, and Washington headlining the rest of your schedule, do you think those playoff hopes are over for Illinois, or is the door still a little bit open?
I think it's done. And this is coming from someone who before the year was like, I like Illinois, probably a 9-3 team.
You didn't subscribe to the playoff hype.
You
like a lot
know,
of people.
and maybe like if I'm wrong and they end up turning it around and going on a tear, more power to Brett Bielema, more power to the Illini. But it was uncharted territory for them from the beginning. I think we all kind of fell in love with the returning production, and they won the bowl game and all those things. But we keep going back to this. A lot of one-score games that went their way last year, and I would be surprised if that stat ends up holding into this year and those one-score wins stay one-score wins. So I like Luke Altmaier. I like Bielema. Playoff, though, a touch rich, especially with all the games they still have to play the rest of the way. We know what Ohio State is, but like, dude, Washington. I think Washington's a really good football team with what they did in the Apple Cup this past weekend. So I don't buy the playoff hype any more than I did in the preseason, and the Indiana loss certainly doesn't cater to a new look on Illinois this year.
Yeah, those close wins are why I've kind of faded like SMU and Duke heading into the year, because they flew a little too close to the sun last year for me, and it's hard to replicate that. Maybe we see that from Illinois, but those 3 games, man, they kind of have a 3-game season right now, so it'll be interesting to see if they can come out of there with a winning record and maybe make that push again. But it's hard to unsee that Indiana one. I think the committee will probably agree there as well. But finish things out, TCU, number 24, they break into this top 25. They have the second best odds of winning the Big 12 right now behind Texas Tech. You pick them to be in the Big 12 title game this season. How are you feeling about that pick right now, man?
Dude, I feel great about it. I think the fact that Josh Hoover has been who we thought he would be from preseason to this season hadn't been the case for a lot of quarterbacks across college football, Kato. Like DJ Lagway, Arch Manning. That's not totally fair discussion because we had more data on Josh Hoover, but the fact that he's playing at the level he's playing at and the fact that they're scoring the way they're scoring, I don't know if TCU is going to be good enough defensively to match up with, the Utahs of the Big 12 and the Iowa States of the Big 12 and the Texas of the Big 12, but they're going to score. Like, they're going to get theirs, and they're going to win a lot of track meets, and I think they're going to be there in Jerry World. I really do.
Fun game, TCU at Arizona State this weekend. This conference
Friday
doesn't
night.
stop delivering. This conference does not stop delivering. And it's a playoff game every week.
There's like 7 teams that can win the Big 12. I think I said before in this segment, Texas Tech and Iowa State could be in Jerry World. Still feel that way. Like, there's so many, the permutations of matchups you could do realistically to get a Big 12 title game. A lot of fun. A lot of math to be had there.
It's the most fun conference, and it's a perfect transition, JD, to the 25th team rounding out the rankings, BYU. BYU is the 4th team in the Big 12 to make the top 25. Do you feel like that makes it possible for 2 teams to potentially make the college football playoff out of the Big 12 this year?
I do. I don't think BYU necessarily impacts that for me. I just think Texas Tech, honestly, more impacts that for me. Like, Texas Tech could win out the rest of the way, and then they get to Jerry World and they play a fill-in-the-blank with whatever flavor of Big 12 team you want to throw in there. I think we could very easily see 2 Big 12 teams come in that way. But BYU, I don't necessarily have a super defined opinion on them just yet. Good to see them in the top 25. Good for the conference. Good for Brett Yormark. Potentially good for Dave Portnoy if things break that way with the Big 12 and the conversation there. But I just think what we saw from Texas Tech this week makes that more possible in my mind.
There are 7 teams in the Big 12 right now that are undefeated, and I think that's the key. If they have more than one that can come out clean, and then obviously one will get the automatic kind of you'll win the Big 12 and you'll be in there. Arizona State's not one of those teams, mind you, the defending champs of that conference, and they could still very much win that league because they're undefeated in conference play. Be interesting to see. I'm already closing my eyes and picturing us having conversations about ranking 2, 9, 8, 10 win teams in the Big 12 versus the SEC and all of that. I'm not looking forward to doing all that college football playoff resume stuff right now because we're in the thick of it. We're starting conference play schedules, but
I'll pull up the schedule so I see something.
Hard not to be excited about the Big 12 moving forward this year on a week in and week out basis. And then when the dust settles and we see the SEC and the ACC and we try to compare those teams that aren't locks to make the playoff with other fringe playoff teams from that league, it'll be really exciting. There'll be a lot of fun conversations about it. But right now, let's just enjoy the Big 12 ball for what we got.
For those that are like, why is he on his phone while Kato is talking?
Trying to vamp.
I'm trying to find something to make sure I'm not going to say something untrue before I say it. Okay, so we talked about, could you get an undefeated team in the Big 12 to their title game, and then they get beaten, and you go forth from there. Kato, Texas Tech does not play TCU in the regular season. So there is a world, roll with me here, 2 undefeated teams in Jerry World.
Could be.
Texas Tech, TCU. You know who's the odd man out there, in my opinion? Notre Dame. Notre Dame at 10-2. Sorry, 11-1. TCU's getting in.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, we'll see, man. That rounds out the 25. I know you probably have a question for me that we always do, so I'll let you get after it. What do you got for me this week?
The philosophical question of the week. Going into week 5 of the college football season. Kato, a lot of big matchups on the board here. A lot of ones to track. What is the game in week 5 of the college football season that will create the greatest ripple effect for the rest of the season?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's Penn State versus Oregon. I think there's just such an unknown about Penn State, and they still remain that high up in the rankings week in and week out, that after this game, I think whoever wins that game, they could win it in a way to be the number 1 team in the country. If Penn State or Oregon beats up on the other team, you could see them potentially leapfrogging and passing Ohio State. It'll set the stage for an eventual game with Ohio State between Penn State. I think the whole narrative on both of these teams, I think that's the biggest mover. Because I think after Ohio State, the Miamis, the LSUs, the Penn States and the Oregons of the world, the Georgias, I think they're all kind of like, you wouldn't be mad at anyone for thinking one team's better than another. But I think that game, and you could say the same because Georgia as well playing Alabama, Georgia could move up in the rankings as well. But I think those two teams both being up there, being ranked so high, it's kind of a cop-out because they're both ranked so high. But I think both of those teams, the complete narrative changes to where Penn State wins, we're saying, okay, we believe this team now that we saw on paper could win a national title, does it. And then same for Oregon. If Oregon goes out there and does what many people think they're going to do as far as a road team that's looked amazing this year but is finally playing a big team, I think either of these teams could have a case for the number 1 or number 2 team in the country if they win this weekend. So I would say that's the biggest impact, and I think they would establish themselves as probably the top team in the Big Ten, despite what Ohio State did.
Dude, that's a money answer. I think you're on the money there, just optically. Forget whatever the standings say and what their path looks like. We could look at Oregon and say, oh, shoot, like they're probably the team to beat. Penn State, same thing. Oh, what we thought about them before the year. They're not just one of the best teams in college football. They're probably the team to beat right now. Drew Aller looked awesome against that Oregon defense. He's carving them up. It's going to be fun, man. It'll be a lot of fun.
Quietly, people forget about how awesome that Big 10 championship game was last year against these teams. So I think it's going to be a great game. And I think you mentioned it, like target on the back. Whoever wins this game, that's who the target's on the back for, I think, in the Big Ten. So excited for it, as always, for this game and many others on this amazing slate we have coming up.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so awesome. Kato, once again, outdone yourself, man. 25 questions, 25 teams. We appreciate y'all making this show what it is. For Caden Smith, the ones, the twos, the questions, the microphone, myself, Jody PicKell. Make sure you're subscribed on your way out the door. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will see y'all next time.